What's up, everybody? Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video. And if you saw the title and the thumbnail, I'm going to be giving you guys my NHL 2021-2022 predictions for the Anaheim Ducks. So I'm actually going to be starting a brand new series where I cover every single team and I basically give you a rundown of where I think they all stand entering this upcoming season. And before I go over the Anaheim Ducks, I'm going to tee up the Pacific Division because we're going to be covering every team. So we're going to be going division by division, starting with the Pacific. Obviously, Anaheim being the first team. So the Pacific Division, much like every other division, is composed of 8 teams. We got the 3 California teams, the San Jose Sharks, the LA Kings, and the Anaheim Ducks, the Vegas Golden Knights. We got our 3 Canadian teams, the Vancouver Canucks, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Calgary Flames. And the NHL's newest franchise this season, the Seattle Kraken, have joined the Pacific Division, whereas the Arizona Coyotes have been moved to the Central Division. And here's basically a map of what it looks like. I just put all of them geographically where they're located. Very creative, I know. So when looking at this division, it's probably the weakest in the NHL. Like, there's probably one team that you can see as like a Stanley Cup contender, where the rest of them are kind of mediocre. And there's a vast majority that are pretty terrible. But seeing that at least 3 teams in the Pacific do make the playoffs, there's going to be some lesser competition that probably get in. All right, so let's get started with the Anaheim Ducks here. So we look at their numbers from last season. They were pretty terrible. A 17-30-9 record for 43 points. They ranked dead last in the West Division. A 63-point pace over an 82-game schedule. Now, being a 63-point team, you're likely the worst team in the league. But if it wasn't for the atrocity of the Buffalo Sabres, the Ducks definitely would have been. Now, looking at their stats from last season, obviously it was pretty bad, but that was to be expected for such a young team. Looking at their offensive numbers, they averaged a 2.21 goals for per game, which ranked dead last in the NHL, and an 8.9% power play percentage, again, ranking dead last in the NHL. So obviously, a very weak offensive team. Now looking at them defensively, 3.16 goals against per game, which ranked 23rd, and a 79.9% penalty kill percentage, which ranked 16th. Honestly, on paper, it's not a terrible defense, and they do have John Gibson, who I think is still a pretty good goaltender. So looking at the top 5 scorers for the Ducks, the leading scorer being Max Comtois with 16 goals, 17 assists for 33 points in 55 games. Obviously, for the leading scorer to have 33 points in 55 games, that just goes to show how bad the offense is. But Comtois is a pretty young winger, and I feel like he does have some upside. And he had a pretty solid year, all things considered. Next, there's Rickard Rakell with 52 games. He had 9 goals and 19 assists for 28 points. Rakell's production has kind of plummeted over the last years. He's not the 25 to 30 goal scorer that he once was. He's kind of transitioned his game into more of a playmaker. So, his statistics aren't as high as they once were. And he kind of is what he is at this point, just the middle 6 winger. Then we have Cam Fowler, who played all 56 games with 5 goals and 18 assists for 23 points. Decent defenseman, put up decent numbers on a bad Ducks offensive team, but he's nothing elite, nothing close to it really. Then we got Adam Henrique, who completely fell off a cliff from last season. I believe he led the team in goals last year, but this season, 45 games, 12 goals, 9 assists for 21 points. Obviously, his age is starting to show, and he's not the player he once was. And then 5th, we got Troy Terry, who in 48 games had 7 goals, 13 assists for 20 points. He was playing top-line minutes, but didn't contribute a ton offensively. I'm not exactly sure what his ceiling is at this point, to be honest. Then we got John Gibson, who played 35 games. He had a 9-19-7 record with a 2.98 goals against average and a 903 save percentage. Obviously, Gibson did have a great season, but looking at the team in front of him, what could he have done, right? I still believe he's one of the top goaltenders in the league. If you put him on a good team, I think he elevates that team, makes him a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. I just feel really bad for John Gibson because a lot of times he's been let out to dry, and it takes like shutouts for him to win games for Anaheim. I've checked the scoreboard, and a lot of 1-0 wins for Anaheim. So like John Gibson really has his hands full here. But as you can see, this Ducks team is currently constructed is going to be one where all the young guys are going to be heavily relied on. And they're going to be building towards the future, trying to slowly get better and get back into relevancy and try to make the playoffs. All right, so now I'm going to get into what I believe are the expectations for the Ducks this season, in my opinion. Yes, I have to stress this. This is my opinion. So if you disagree, you're welcome to do so. You can leave comments in the comment section. We can have a very civil hockey discussion. I'm totally okay with that. So taking a look at what they did this offseason, it's a rebuilding team. It's all about patience. They didn't add anybody. They didn't lose anybody. I think that was by design. They're really looking for those young guys to really step up their game and develop. If I had one critique about this team, I really think they should have acquired some more goal scoring to really help them and make them more competitive. But again, it's a weak team. They want to develop their young guys, and that's why I guess they didn't add anybody. All right, so I got some predictions of my own of who I feel are going to be the top 5 scorers for the Anaheim Ducks entering the 2021-22 NHL season. Before I get into it, as you can see, I have all of them playing 82 games. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but I'm not going to predict injuries. I'm just going to assume when healthy, this is precisely the type of production that you can expect from these guys. So leading the Ducks in scoring, I actually have Trevor Zegras. I really like this guy. I think he's going to be a future star in this league. And we already saw in a small sample size what he can do. He had played 24 games last year. He had 13 points. He did respectably well on a bad Ducks team. So I have him scoring 18 goals and adding 35 assists for 53 points. I think it's fair. I really think he can have a 50-plus point season in his rookie year. Not only that, but I really think he can win the Calder Trophy. I looked at the Calder odds and he was like 7th among rookies, most likely to win the Calder odds, like at plus 2,000. Are you kidding me? I don't know. I just don't agree with that. There's a lot of guys who are unproven, who are ranked higher than him, and just doesn't make sense when Trevor Zegras has already proven that he's an NHL player. So number 2, I got Max Comtois, scoring 25 goals and 23 assists for 48 points. And leading the Anaheim Ducks in goal scoring. Honestly, like I said before, I think he's just a very solid winger. He's got goal scoring upside. And I think late in the season, him and Trevor Zegras really gained a little bit of chemistry. So I think they can match really well. And then in third, I got Rickard Rakell scoring 16 goals and adding 29 assists for 45 points. I mean, like I said before, Rakell is not the offensive player he once was. He's kind of transitioned to a playmaker. He kind of is what he is. You know, he's a solid 45 point guy, middle 6 winger. But apart from that, you're not going to get a ton of offense from him. Then in fourth, I got Cam Fowler leading all D in scoring on the Anaheim Ducks with 8 goals, 28 assists for 36 points. Not much more to say on him other than he's a solid D, but nothing much more than that. And in fifth, I actually have Ryan Getzlaf. Now, if we know Ryan Getzlaf's history, he's not going to play 82 games. Over the last 5 years, he's been totally injury prone. But I do think when healthy, he's still capable of putting up about 30 points. So I have him scoring 9 goals, 23 assists for 32 points. I feel like he's still a decent playmaking center. On most teams, he'd probably be a 3rd line center, maybe even a 4th line center. But on the Ducks, he's on the 2nd line center spot because, you know, not a lot of talent right now. And I'll mention a few names that I left off the top 5 in scoring, like Sam Steele and Troy Terry. Like Troy Terry had a decent year last year with 20 points. But I don't know. I don't know what these guys, what their ceiling is. Just haven't shown enough for me up to this point. So I guess I have more favoritism towards the vet. I do think Troy Terry could possibly be in the top 5, especially if he's playing on a top line with Trevor Zegras and Max Comtois. All right, so ending off this video, I'm going to give you guys my expectations for this team. So I have them finishing 7th in the Pacific Division, finishing with a 29, 40, and 13 record for a total of 71 points. And of course, not enough to make the playoffs. And I know some of you might think that it's pretty pointless to put record, but I figured it's pretty accurate and it's realistic around what I feel most teams could finish with. For the Ducks, I think they can hit around the 70-point range, but not much more than that. But overall, I do think this is a young up-and-coming team, and there is some exciting pieces to look forward to. That's one of the main reasons why I don't actually have them last in the Pacific, because there's another team, which I'll get to later. I just don't see as much upside. Whereas with Anaheim, you have John Gibson. He can steal you a couple games, get you shutouts, really hold the fort there when the Ducks struggle scoring, and they'll struggle to score a lot this season. I know that for a fact. Also, they do have some pretty solid young forwards, young prospects coming up. Like Trevor Zegras, for example, of course, I have him finishing with a pretty big season, pretty big rookie year, and taking home the Calder Trophy. In terms of where they stand around the league, I still think they're probably a lottery team. They're going to be bound for the 1st overall pick, or in the running for it, I should say. And most likely they're going to be a bottom 5 team in the NHL. I do have them being a little bit better than last year, but in terms of them making the playoffs, I don't think they stand a chance. That is going to wrap up my season expectations on the Anaheim Ducks. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you guys think about the Ducks entering this season. You have them like me, where they're probably going to be a bottom 5 team looking for that 1st overall pick. Or you guys think they can surprise people and maybe push for a playoff spot this season? Again, let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. You know, I'm going to be doing a series like this. I'm going to be going through every single team. So stay tuned for that. Please consider subscribing, liking this video, and I'll talk to you again in the next video. See you guys later.